Joining us now is Vikings analyst Pete Bercich. And Pete, everyone is saying that the Vikings have killed it in free agency. Pro Football Focus is giving them an A+ for their moves so far in free agency. Are you putting them at the top of the class as well?
Yeah, you have to put them up there at or near the top. I mean, a team that's was 14-3, but then going into the season, you had a lot of holes. You had a lot of needs.
Right.
With the departure of Cam Bynum, what you're going to do with the offensive line, and being able to really fill most of those the best that you can without having to give up too much. Yeah, you paid some money, but nothing over, way over the top. So I think they've maneuvered very well, and hopefully the evaluation is every bit as good as it was last year for Grenard, Van Ginkel, and Cashman. I mean, if you keep bringing in quality players like those guys, then free agency. If you're dealing with younger free agents, it might be a viable way to keep a team going. But you still need the draft, and you still need that influx of young talent.
Well, speaking of the draft, the latest big move by the Vikings was solidifying their backfield, trading for another running back to pair with Aaron Jones. They cut a deal with San Francisco for Jordan Mason. One, what do you think of Mason? And, two, how do you think these two will work together next season?
I think they'll work very well together. I mean, Mason comes out of the gate first 4 games of the year with about 400 yards rushing. We saw what he did against us. He's a big back. He's also very, very good in pass protection. All right. So we haven't done a film study on him quite yet, but he's going to be a good, hard running, short yardage, third down, deep red zone type of a running back. Because if you remember the end of the season, we were getting C.J. Ham in there quite a bit,
right,
on third downs for protection and those kind of things. That's where I see Mason really filling in right away. But we have to take some snaps off of Aaron Jones. He had more touches last year than he had his entire career. He's not getting any younger. To keep him playing at the level that we saw him do last year, or even look a year ago to when he was in Green Bay, the way he ended that season, he missed a lot of games along the way. Keep the snaps off of him. And then, so Mason is that kind of guy. You know what you're getting in him. There's no projection here.
Right.
You saw him on film. And he had a great game against us, which helps him a ton.
I'm sure that must have stuck with him, no doubt about it.
That's why Darnold's in Seattle, right?
Yes.
I mean, what's the last pass they remember from Darnold? It's like, okay, bring that guy in. Pay him a lot of money.
Now, how big is this, though, filling a hole the Vikings had that we all thought was going to be addressed in the draft? They're already short of picks. So how important is this for Kwesi and his evaluators to have this check mark already filled before the draft?
Yeah, a lot of people were talking. It's a lot. There are a lot of running backs in this draft. So, you really don't need one. We could pick one up in the draft, and that still may be true. You can never have too many good running backs. I think what it does, though, is it doesn't pigeonhole you in your first round draft choice, right? So you don't have to get a particular position. If you look at the board the way it stands now, we're still thin, I believe, at the cornerback position and at the safety position. I know Harrison Smith is back. But I still think we need some more bodies in that room. But if you're in the first round and there's a very good offensive lineman that's there, if there's a interior defensive tackle, I mean, you have a lot of flexibility. And I think that's the best part of what they've done so far in free agency is, you have some flexibility. You could trade down. You could do a lot of different things. There are no heavy, obvious needs on this team going into the draft. So that part of it, I think they've positioned themselves to be able to be as flexible with that first pick to, maybe trade it away, pick up some other down the road.
Right,
We'll see exactly what happens.
Yeah, it's good that he can now play with a full deck and not be handicapped by needs. But the interior of both lines, that was something that we heard Kevin O'Connell come right out and say publicly, which usually he always kind of hides his words, but He said that was a need this offseason, and they've done just that. The biggest piece, both in size and need, Will Fries. Is how big can this guy, how much will he change things for the way the Vikings pass block this season?
Well, I think, it could change a ton. And the thing to remember is whenever you have a young quarterback, the best friends of a young quarterback are a great defense and a good running game. And I think Will Fries is definitely going to be able to do that. He's a big body. Having him on the right side of this offensive line, his ability to pass protect if the center is turning the other way. I mean, Darnold was sacked 48 times last year. 48 times, and they know that they had to fix it. And Fries is a huge part of it. I mean, I thought that Fries having a bigger body next to the center and Bradbury would help Bradbury out quite a bit. But then they also, decided to bring in Ryan Kelly as well. So fresh set of bodies up front. Got to get them to work together. Got to get them to mesh and gel and do all those things. You might even have some options before Darisaw comes back, because he may not be 100% when the season begins. But Will Fries is definitely the bigger body type of a guard that you want.
All right, that's just what I was going to say, is that, how surprised are you that the Vikings went out and got a second center? Because we knew Bradbury had some issues, but not glaring where it was just like, oh my goodness, they have to do something. How much did that surprise you that they jumped up and stepped in and got Kelly?
I think that was always a possibility, right? With the way Bradbury plays, he's a very athletic center. But if you don't pair him or handcuff him to a guard on either side that can really move a pile, that's where I think that's where he's at his best, right? That is where he's absolutely at his best, when he can use his athleticism, because he's got a big body next to him to help just move that whole thing. So when they brought in Fries, I thought, okay, well, it's going to help him out quite a bit. But I mean, the one thing that's going to do is let everybody know on that team that tomorrow, there's no guarantee of tomorrow, right? That if we find somebody and we need to upgrade, we're going to do it. And so, that offensive line, we talked about the middle of the defense, the middle of the offensive line, and we've got a lot of new faces, up front to solidify that whole thing.
All right. I've watched you on X and have seen your timeline being flooded from Viking fans asking the big question, will they pull the trigger and bring in Aaron Rodgers to join J.J. McCarthy in the quarterback room? I know we talked earlier. I know your stance, but has it changed at all? Is there any way that Aaron Rodgers can fit in this Vikings offense?
It depends on what Aaron Rodgers wants to do, right? I mean, we saw him last year. We saw him in London with the Jets.
Right.
He's a three-step guy. Get rid of the football quickly. The only time he really throws it deep is if it's a press coverage on the outside and he's throwing a fade. He can still do all those things. He can make all those throws. I just don't see him having enough juice to get this team where it needs to go. If he's okay with coming in and being a backup, and by the way, that means taking a backup type salary to someone like J.J. McCarthy, say, yeah, I want to mentor him. I want to be part of a team. I want to grow this team. I want to make this kid be as good as he can be. If that's his attitude, then fine, right? Then good. You're bringing in a lot of experience. He's not, hopefully won't be too much of a distraction. But with everything that the Vikings are trying to build, it just makes you wonder, right?
Right, exactly.
I don't think for a minute this franchise, unless there's something wrong with JJ that we don't know about, unless that's the possibility, or they're just not confident that he can finish the season, and that you may have to fall back on somebody, and they want to have an experienced backup, because you don't want to have what happened with us and Cousins 2 seasons ago. Then Rodgers is that guy, but Rodgers has to buy into that and say, yes, I will take a back seat. I will hold the clipboard. I will not be the focus of attention. Can he do that? If he's able to do that and accept the type of money that you want to pay him or can pay him, then yeah, I'm fine with it. But I don't think he's going to come in here like Favre did in '09 and be the guy, drop in off a helicopter, get flown in on whatever, how
right.
that whole thing
on Will
which was
Flight 1.
still unbelievably crazy. I'll never forget it. But I don't think he's going to come in with that type of hoopla if he's going to be on this team.
Well, my biggest concern is chemistry, because we see what a disruptor he could be when he's not happy. And you could just see him on Pat McAfee in the middle of the week backing up J.J. McCarthy, right. And J.J. has 2 touchdowns and a pick, and the Vikings lose. And Pat's first question to him is, well, you could do better than that, couldn't you? Right. And you know that Rodgers is not going to spit the bait out. He will take it, and he will just make this into a bigger circus, right? That's what I would be totally gun-shy of.
Right. Jim, you are absolutely right. And, when Kevin O'Connell showed up and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah showed up, they said they were talking about culture and, what they want to build here. And they've been able to do that, right? You look at the character guys like Aaron Jones, you look at the surveys and all that goes into the experience of being a Minnesota Viking. You built that. Why would you want to risk toppling that whole foundation for a backup quarterback? It just doesn't make sense. But if they can figure out a way to manage that, if they can figure out a way to work, ride out into the sunset, that kind of thing. Yeah, then maybe we can do that. But the man, he has a lot of distractions, no questions.
All right. Everyone was excited, happy, really glad to see Harrison Smith sign back with the Vikings. But this is year 14, Pete. 14 years. I mean, is he really? Do you feel you know him pretty well? You've watched him for 13 seasons.
He's outlived my dog, Jim. He's outlived my dog. I mean, think about that.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, NFL years are like dog years. It takes a lot out of you. So, do you really think he's got enough in the tank for a full 14?
Yeah. I mean, I think you do. If you can find again he's another type of a guy where you would hope that you have somebody young behind him that along the way could take some snaps off of him. I don't think you're going to go into the season with the plan being he is going to be 100% starter, soup to nuts, and play 98% of the defensive snaps. We need to bring that down a little bit. But again, Jim, when he goes into the Hall of Fame, I think the one thing with Harrison Smith is he's the most versatile safety in the league. I mean, he can play the deep half, he can cover man-to-man, he can blitz, he can tackle and run support. There's nothing that he can't do. So as a defensive coordinator, oh man, you love a guy like that because you can't just ignore him when he walks up on the line of scrimmage because he actually has the ability to do something. He's not a distraction, right? The whole thing about we're not worried about so-and-so stepping up and acting like he's blitzing because he never does. So he's just valuable. And he's valuable as a leader. And again, you have a veteran like him that can teach the younger guys how to watch film, how to be a pro, how to take care of your body, all those things. So he brings all that in a way of value, but I just don't think you're going to get 98% of the defensive snaps out of him this season. All
right. Speaking of the defense, the interior of the line, how do you see these pieces that they've added complement Harrison Phillips? What do you see there? Obviously, the outside is elite at this point, but what were they looking here for? What kind of help do they want to give Phillips in the middle?
I think really it's a matter of finding ways to get pressure on the quarterback on base downs, meaning first and second down, third and fourth down. They've got sub packages they can get, Dallas Turner out in the field along with Bernard and Van Ginkel, so that's not an issue. It's getting pressure on the quarterback on base downs. I think one of probably the least efficient defensive styles that we play is when we rush 5 and then drop 6 in a zone, kind of like the old school 3-4 type of a defense.
Okay.
You need somebody up front to win one-on-one. And I think that's what Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave can do. And, they're going to be singled up most of the time. But they're also, we only would go into games with 4, maybe 5 of these guys active on the interior defensive line. So the rotation is going to be huge. They're all going to be able to take snaps off of each other. I expect a lot more out of that entire, middle of the defensive front.
All right, Pete, great knowledge. Thank you much. What percent, if you have one, Aaron Rodgers here? 50-50, 30-70?
I don't know. I don't know exactly what officially has come out of the Vikings camp about this, if they've actually said, yes, we're entertaining this or whatever, unless there's another alternative reason that they would want to consider it. I would say 20% tops.
All right. Pete Bercich, thank you so much. We
Thanks,
appreciate
Jim.
your time, as always, and hopefully we'll see you back in the city soon, and we can maybe do something here in the studio as well.
Ooh, sounds good.
Don't worry. It's not that exciting. Pete Bercich, Vikings
All right,
analyst.
Jim, see you.